Rock you down too high.
We're doing this week different. We're jumping right into some of the work that we had to get done over the last week. First off, we're going to talk about the molding process that I've already started for the hood. Like normal, I am mixing up a silicone two-part setup that I'm going to pour into a mold, but this is going to be different. And we're going to go over a little bit of what I'm trying with this one. This mold that I'm pouring this silicone into is specifically for the silicone. Normally, I just pour silicone into the mold that I'm going to make the body panel in, but this time I'm going to be putting an insert into the mold at the same time, a 3D printed piece. So I needed to change some things up. I'll get into the details of that later. I hope to be further in it this week, but turns out that I just was a few days behind after being sick. But we did get the silicone buck pulled out of the mold, and I also started prepping the 3D printed mold that we'll actually be using this RW4 high build mold release wax. I really like it. These are the two halves of the mold. The first step that I'm doing this time is prepping the mating surface of the molds. So before I actually bolted it together, I did one single pass of the high build mold release wax. I really like this wax. I've never found anything that was as high build as this. From there, I took it into the studio and I bolted the two halves together. And then I did 3 more passes of the high build mold release wax. And at that point, that's where the mold is as of right this moment. So we haven't started doing any of the other molding. From there, we started working on the transmission side of things. So pulled the actual VFD twin out, and I needed to drill that hole in the back half of the front portion of the transmission. I used a small pilot drill first before putting in that larger one so that I could pass the top shaft through the back of the transmission like you see there. Now there's a step on that top shaft which wouldn't allow that bearing to go on any further, so I had to cut it off. Took it out, used a death wheel, and you can see that I had started to file it there because that area of the shaft is not made for a bearing fit. So anyway, here you can see the tolerance that I added into the motor plate. The screws are 4 millimeters, so it kind of moves around. I'm going to be using a slipper eliminator, and I'm also going to be using that little spacer back there. I'm going to be using the aluminum ones, but for now I'm mocking up with this and a 56 tooth spur gear. That's going to get this thing dropped way down, but I did use some emery board to sand down that top shaft so that the bearings slid over it easier. That was an easy thing to do. It took maybe a minute or so with just a little bit of an emery board and go from there. After I put the spur gear on, I put a 5x10 millimeter bearing in the front side of the spur gear, then that little spacer, and then a 5x11. Now that last 5x11 right there, that's going to be changed out to a flanged 5x11, and that will help capture the spur gear or that bearing from the inside. From there, I got everything kind of just pushed loosely into place, and then I marked the back side of where that slipper eliminator is with a Sharpie. That means that I can find exactly where that line is once I pull all of this off from the top shaft. The 5x11 on the outside, that spacer, and then the 5x10 that is just pushed into the front side of that spur gear. So there is there's the mark. That's the important mark. From there, this is going to be kind of precise, but you'll see exactly. So I took it and I put it in the bridge port. Now I've got a set of soft jaws, just regular plastic soft jaws with a V groove in them right there. And that is what is holding the shaft level in the vise that I've got here. From there, I just edge found in a very rudimentary way. I used my spot drill and I used a piece of paper to find the edge by just checking tension with a piece of paper. It's a pretty normal method, but you could find a magnetic edge finder. So I did one side, I zeroed my DRO, which is the digital readout. Then I found the other side. And you can see there I got 11.45 millimeters. Now, what that measurement is I'll raise the head of the bridge port up, and now I need to go to half of that distance of 11.45, so 5.73 millimeters will be my final measurement. And that means that my spot drill will be directly over the very center of that top shaft. So that is what that whole process was for. But that's only one of the 2 locations that we need. Now that we're centered over the shaft itself, I need to get it in position in respect to that black mark. So I took the tip and I went right to where I felt the edge of that black line was. And then the pin that these things use is a 2mm diameter by 10mm long. So I need to just move the tip of that 1mm to the right. And that'll give me enough play so that my slipper eliminator should be able to sit basically exactly where I need it. Now, I know a lot of you have an old Bridgeport with a DRO in your garage, but not everybody. You don't need to do it this way, obviously. You could get this done with a Dremel and a file and a hand drill if you wanted. And I have in the past, but I also have access to this, so that's what I'm using. So from there, once we have the drill in the right spot now, turn it on and we're just going to spot drill that shaft. Give us a nice divot right where we want it before we end up drilling. This is a hardened top shaft already, so it is a little bit harder to work with, and that is the nice thing about having a Bridgeport like this, is that everything is very rigid. So after I got it spot drilled, stop the head, and I'll show you the up close of what we did there. See that little divot? About 1mm in from the edge of our black line. Now, like I said, this uses a 2mm pin, so we need a just over 2mm drill. 2.1 would be great, which a 45 is very close. It's just a regular drill chart. Went to the box and grabbed a number 45 drill. Nothing special for this, just getting it lined up. We did not change the position of the Bridgeport at all. We just left it exactly where it was and changed the drill bit. Just kept it super simple. Made everything line up as best as possible. I'm not using any cutting fluid or anything like that. No air even. It's a pretty small part with not a really aggressive cut. So you can see our hole is straight through. All there was to that process. Now we've got our modified top shaft. While I still do plan to have these CNC'd, like I'll make them properly and then allow them to be bought by people who either don't want to or don't have any of the means to do anything along these lines. But now you can see I've got it bolted into that transmission again. But the transmission was pretty much empty, so I grabbed the machine transfer case gears, machined front gears, and 30-tooth aluminum bearing plates so I can get this thing beefed up. So we took out the stock VFD twin internals and we started dropping in all the goods into this transmission. So the regular machined gears there go on the front side, top shaft is in place. Put the machine transfer case gears in, got some grease on everything. And then at this point I needed to jump over to the actual paint. Now I did shoot some primer on here first, some just regular all-purpose fast drying, the keyword. And then I did decide to go with very simple gloss black chassis paint. Nothing crazy here. Just, I want the chassis part to just, the color doesn't need to stand out. I think the design and everything else will stand out on its own. Then I combined everything. We dropped that built transmission back into our built chassis. Our electric motor is inside of our mocked up 3D printed motor. And this setup is functioning, which is great news. So there was a reason why we didn't start off with the chassis, because it kind of looks like things went backwards because it's all disassembled. I could have had this back together tonight, but I need to actually get this filmed. It's already 11:15 at night. So the important thing is that the transmission is built in the chassis, assembled. Everything spins freely, smoothly. The motor's in place. Those are the important things, because I needed to make sure, like, if I don't get a CNC'd top shaft done before the event, it's ready to go right now. I don't need to take it back out of this if I didn't want to. Now I plan to, because I still have the 3D printed skid in there, and that is going to be, the file is going to be set off to Brett at Brazen Scale, and he's going to try and CNC machine some out of Delrin. If that gets done and put in here, fantastic. If I drag my feet too long and it doesn't happen in time, shit happens, we'll move on. But this is in good shape. I still have my engine back here. Matt says he's going to 3D print and detail one for me, which is excellent. But if not, it's in there as well. The send cut send order that I talked about last week with the front servo mount, the inner fenders, That's been sent off with the addition of an aluminum panel that's going in the back here. It's just going to kind of come up and roll underneath and give us a little area back here. I added some slats or like some breather areas because I also designed up but haven't 3D printed a rear radiator with a fan and everything that goes on it. The fan is from the Vanquish VS410 kits. It's made for use a single version of one of the fans that usually has two on the VS410s, and it honestly, it fills this area up and it looks fantastic. So I'm super happy with how that is working, and I think it's going to finish everything off. As I mentioned, I went with black on the chassis. I just wanted that part of it to be pretty subtle. But let's talk about the body panel progress, things like that. So I grabbed the mold, which you'll see here. And this was the area that we made the silicone of. And you can see the silicone right here. Now, the difference of what I'm trying to do is the very first time I did forged carbon, I did 2-piece compression molds and it all went together. And with that style, you can have features on both sides of your carbon fiber. You can have mounting bosses and everything. That's the benefit of real forged carbon, or what they call forged carbon, is you can have those 3D features on both sides if you like. The method that I had gone to since then was just a regular open mold with a 3D print or a silicone buck that went inside, and you just squeezed all the excess out. It was like the easiest way to get carbon fiber done. I kind of want the best of both worlds. I want to be able to have the features on both sides, like the mounting features that I want to incorporate, but I want it to be super fast, simple, and a lot easier. So that's what I've come up with here in theory. So what we're going to be doing is I got my denim in, and I mentioned last week I got it in 3 different colors. So we've got light denim, dark denim, and then lighter denim. I'm at this point, I'm leaning towards dark. You guys can, it would either be dark or the medium, I guess. But I'm thinking the dark. I think that will look best against the wheels. What has this channel turned into? Oh my God. So I think that those colors will match the best. Granted, it's far from the dash color, which that is probably closer to that. But I feel like if it's so close but not exact, when you have body panels on the side, it will look wrong. Where this one on the side, it just looks like a slightly contrasting color. What am I talking about? Wow. We're going with the dark. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut up some of that denim, and we'll lay it into the mold first. Then I'm going to take this 3D printed piece that I made, and it is going to go on there next. There's some locating features in this mold. You see those divots in the corners? Those are cones, and those cones will be the countersink areas for screws to attach it. But those will also help locate this. So we'll put that in, then we'll put this in, and then I'll probably back it with 1 layer of carbon fiber, just so that it's still carbon fiber. So I'll put 1 layer of carbon fiber mat, then we'll take this, which has the reliefs for this piece, into it. So when it gets squished down, those will want to be in there. It might be a little bit tight. The extra carbon fiber that I put in there could become a bit of an issue. It might push this around. I don't know. We're going to find out. So once that's all in there, then this goes in. Then we have a compression piece, a flat piece that'll go on the very top. And we'll clamp this whole thing down with the resin and all that material in there. We'll clamp it down. We'll leave it like that for 24 hours. So that is how we'll be doing the very first version, very first take of the denim fiber hood. I'm looking forward to that. That will definitely be done for next week. I wanted to have it done for this week, but I needed about 24 more hours. So, or a little bit more, but that is what you'll see on that next week. Hopefully that works the first shot and it's a success. The sides and the roof will just be the standard process. A single mold, silicone that goes into it, you squeeze it out, and everything just is the normal way. From there, my send cut send order should be here well in advance of that, so I should be able to get the front servos in, those inner fenders, start working on the mesh design. I also grabbed the machined aluminum Vanquish rod ends. That's some extra stuff in there. The machined aluminum Vanquish rod ends. So I'll be replacing all of the link rod ends with those. One more thing that we're 100% sure won't break on us then. So just a small extra little piece of bonus. The only ones we won't be replacing are the bent ones on the steering link there, but everything else on the whole car other than the shocks, but those are already aluminum, so everything else will be a metal rod end. And these Vanquish ones, if you've never seen those, we'll go over them next time. They're super bad. They're adjustable tension, so they'll never wear out and get sloppy. You can adjust them to make sure they stay nice and tight, or just as friction free as you could want them to be. Poet. Didn't know it. Everything's looking good. Last week I delayed the video until Friday sometime, but I was lucky to get it out by then. I was down for almost a week. I feel a little bit better now. I'm still a little sniffly, but things are moving and I feel much better. Before we get too far in the video, help me feed the YouTube algorithm and come up with some sort of nickname for this buggy. I don't really have one yet, and just calling it the Jimmy's buggy doesn't seem right. The jeans theme, it's got to be something with jeans. Help me with a nickname or put your shoe size. Help me please the YouTube gods. So that's a quick run through on what we got done this week, a little bit closer in-depth look at some of the how-to stuff. And before we go, I want to show you the progress of the guys who got some photos uploaded throughout the week. I forgot to put out a post to them asking them to put things up, so it's only going to be guys that just were posting their progress. So things are going well. The guys are making great progress as well. I hoped to have some things like, CNC top shafts done for them and things like that by now, but that's why this is a build along. Sometimes things take a while. Sometimes I'm behind. I'm always behind, but I'm rushing. I'm getting as much done as I can, and this thing is turning out so sick. Can't wait to get the axles back under it with the new rod ends on the links. Those Reefs 900 LP Smarts are so badass. Can't wait to run those things. I've ran them just through my generator, and my servo generator with some power. Oh, snappy, so powerful. It feels like it wants to rip this buggy in half. But we still have a lot of details left to do, and then we have to wire this thing, which, poof, that's going to be a treat. So hope you guys are enjoying this little ride that we're on, because it's going to be sweet, and I can't wait to get this done so I can get all these files shared with people who want to build their own version as well. It's going to be a sick group of buggies to be a part of. I can't wait. So hope you guys are enjoying this. I'm very late trying to get this done. I don't mean to rush, but I'm rushing. So if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you want to follow along more closely with some of this stuff that I'm doing behind the scenes rather than just a weekly video here or there, or you just want to help support the channel a little bit more, I've got the channel memberships available. That's below. There's a link, or you can hit the join button next to my name, the channel name. Appreciate all the support. Thanks to all of those who already are supporting the channel, and hopefully you're enjoying all the behind the scenes videos, things like that. We're at, I think, 11 or 12 videos now, and there's like almost 150 people. We're super close to 150 members, so appreciate all of you that have joined. If you're interested, find that link and information below. Appreciate you all. Let's get into everybody else's progress.